Abbot Eldrich's advice: never film yourself sleeping. This happened 7 years ago. At the time, I was just a freshman in college. There was a girl who studied with me. She was an excellent student, honest, smart, a true pride of her parents. She was a distant relative of mine from another city. Her parents had rented a small, one-bedroom apartment in our city, and she lived there alone. Something strange happened one weekend. Initially, I didn't think much of it, but later I deeply regretted it. I remember that day and that hour as if it were yesterday. She came running to me at about 9 in the morning, tears streaking her face, shaking from crying, and unable to calm down. It took about 40 minutes for her to compose herself enough to tell me what had happened. As it turned out, she had a secret hobby: reading scary stories, watching all sorts of creepy videos, and the like. Before going to bed, she set up a camera opposite her bed and went to sleep, hoping to catch something unusual. Then she started to tell me about something strange. It crossed my mind that, being away from her parents' supervision, she might have started using drugs. But I tell you, I now deeply regret not believing her back then. She transferred the video from the camera to her laptop and started watching the footage. At first, she was just tossing and turning. Then, according to her, she looked away from the screen for just a couple of seconds to catch a fly or something. When she looked back, she felt chills running down her spine. In the video, she lifted her head and stared into the camera with a surprised expression. She described it as wide-open eyes, raised eyebrows, but a completely smooth forehead and a slight smile. Like a cat that sees something tasty in your hands. What was unusual about this face was that the pupils were so wide that the irises were almost not visible. She continued to stare out from the monitor for several minutes, not blinking or moving. She initially thought the laptop had frozen and the frame was stuck, but then she noticed something that couldn't possibly be there. At that time, she had dark hair with a short haircut, and one strand on top was dyed bright purple. But now, she saw this strand somewhere near the neck of the other her on the monitor, which couldn't be, because it was too short. That is, as if her head was calmly lying on the pillow, and something else, nested on top, was looking into the camera. Before continuing her story, she stuttered and trembled for several minutes, asking me whether I would think she was crazy and if I would tell anyone else so no one would call her that. Of course, I promised that nothing of the sort would happen. As soon as she thought about that strand of hair, what caused all her hysteria happened. She swears that what happened next was this. Her own face, which had been staring into the camera with huge pupils for about 10 minutes, suddenly stretched vertically in a matter of seconds. Her mouth opened unnaturally wide. She said a fist could fit inside, and the lower jaw shifted to the side along with the face, forming something like the letter C. She immediately closed the video player window. Then she continued her story through sobs. She saw that this nightmarish, distorted face was set as the background on her desktop. She tried to delete it and saw that all the images had been replaced with this monstrosity. Instead of music in all the files, there was some hissing with a barely distinguishable irritating knock in the background. I advised her to calm down then and decided to go with her to clean her computer of viruses. She agreed immediately, and we went to her place. Everything was indeed as she had described. The desktop was filled with those terrifying images. Honestly, I was scared myself at first glance, but I didn't show it. Someone had to deal with the situation. After about half an hour of work, I managed to remove all the horrors from her computer. Nothing similar happened again, as she later said. About a year passed, and nothing special happened. She had given up her experiments with the paranormal after that incident. It seemed that the story was behind us, but after some time she called me, her voice breaking, and said it had returned. I didn't immediately understand what she meant, but she reminded me of the video and the images. This time she was at a bachelorette party of a friend, and they later showed her photos from the party. She says that in all the photos where she appeared, that face with the surprised expression, the slight smile, and the huge black pupils was there again. And this despite the flash and the fact that everyone else in the frame had red eye except for her. I brushed it off then. I decided that after that incident, her nerves were shot and told her not to worry about it and that the photos wouldn't do anything to her. If you don't like the photos, just delete them, I said. I said goodbye after that. I'm recounting this case 3 years after the events described above. I did nothing then and went out with a girl, which I now deeply regret. My relative was found dead in her own bed a few days later. She was completely gray, and as everyone who saw her said, her eyes were almost round with terror, and her face was covered in dried tears. The door to her apartment was ajar. At first, everyone thought someone had broken in, but everything was in order, and there were no signs of struggle. The door had been scratched and opened from the inside. I've thought a lot about what happened. I couldn't sleep at nights. In some ways, I became paranoid. It seemed to me that something could happen to me as well. She was buried 6 months ago, and yesterday I received a photo from that party in the mail from an unknown address. She was looking at me with those huge pupils and smirking.